This meeting is being recorded.
Listening to your body to feel better. Hi, I'm CiCi with Wise Woman Evolving, and welcome. What we're going to talk about today is more on the health side of things. People have brought up more issues this week, this past month, that they like to work on the body. Some of it's with the mind as well, so we'll be addressing both. And I want to first welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me. And in becoming a wise woman, evolving, because we're all still evolving. Hopefully, we can evolve together. Please join me on my YouTube channel as well, where I post these videos and more. And that way we can all learn and grow together. I also offer a free ebook there. And if you'd like to get that, you can click on more in the description and scroll down, and it'll tell you how to do that. You can subscribe to the channel there as well so that you see when these videos come up. Right now, I'm doing them the first Tuesday of each month at noon Central Time, and you're welcome to join me. They're free of charge. I'm hoping to be able to just make the world a more beautiful place, a healthier place. So it's really important to remember, especially if you're watching this as a recording later on, to watch it from start to finish with no interruptions. And you get more benefit out of it that way. If you're constantly pausing or not paying attention or having interruptions, the flow isn't there, and therefore the formulas don't take hold or set in for as long. It's also helpful to come with a glass of water, because the more our cells are hydrated, our bodies are hydrated at the cellular level, the more easily the formulas will take hold, as well as they'll last longer and they'll do a better job. You'll see more change that way. So thank you again. And remember to find me on YouTube for more information. We do want to help as many people as possible. So feel free to also invite others or share the videos with others. So I'll tell you one thing that I want to start this with is it's kind of a joke and it's pretty serious at the same time. But someone shared with me recently, or she popped out with this, and it just cracked me up. And I asked if I could use it, and she gave me permission. But I'll start with a little funny that's not so funny because it's also very real, unfortunately. So she's out shopping in the market, and she went to make her groceries for the week, and she's passing by. She's very aware of her diet and how that affects her health and her well-being, the mind, etc. And she's passing people with Doritos and sodas in their shopping carts. And she's thinking to herself, what do you want, a coupon for a coffin? And I just lost it when she said that, because it's something that so many people are still so unaware, unfortunately, that their diet really does have an effect on their health. And I know a lot of you attending already are familiar with this. Many of you already eat a fully organic diet, lowered sugar amounts, etc. But sometimes it's good to just remember. And maybe it provides a moment where we can help educate others, especially if they're not feeling so well. It doesn't mean we go walk up to total strangers, although I've known people to do that in the past before, and it's worked. They felt like, yeah, I know this is a problem, but I don't know what to do about it. And so just be open-minded. As a lot of people wake up, which a lot of people are waking up these days, we want to remember to have compassion and be gentle. We want to be present so that we can help them. Because even people that we've told for years, you really shouldn't eat that way, or that's not healthy, or would you consider this? And maybe they've really just shooed us off because of our own clean eating or healthy diets. And then as they're waking up these days, because more and more is happening, they're finding more and more health problems are being experienced and such. Excuse me, I've got to turn the volume off my phone. They're going to turn around and come back to you, because they'll remember that you have been eating healthier, that you seem to feel better, or you've maybe gotten through an illness. or a health issue, and they'll start coming to you, and you feel like, really, you want me to help you, and you've pushed me away all these years, or you've chided me for that. But we need to remember to have a little bit of compassion, because we're all on the same path. We're just getting there at different times. We're taking different routes, etc. But we're all on that same path, and we are all equal co-creators with Source, with the Creator. And even if someone else is not making choices that maybe we'd agree with, or that we'd choose for ourselves, or choose for them if we could, we have to remember to have compassion. And remember that just like us, we were there once, right? They're starting to wake up and starting to be curious, starting to recognize that maybe their habits are not helping them for their health or their mind or their emotions, etc. And so be patient while it may be very difficult, and have a little bit of compassion. And sometimes we still need to remember to set those healthy boundaries. It doesn't mean we're just going to all of a sudden just turn over and roll over and say, okay, I'll help. We have to remember, hey, remember how you treated me? And if we need to set healthy boundaries, we need to do that in a firm but kind and gentle way. So I encourage you to do that. Um, so yeah, it's hard. And yes, even those of us who live a really healthy life and choose very healthy choices, etc., with our eating and etc., maybe sometimes we want to have a little splurge for a celebration. Does it mean we go out and get Doritos and soda pops? That's up to you. For me, I wouldn't, but I'll make, like, my daughter and I recently celebrated birthdays, and her favorite and one of my favorites is angel food cake. So I make mine from scratch, all organic, gluten-free, etc., at the very least glyphosate-free, which is probably more important than being gluten-free for us and our family. I'm not going to say that's the case for everyone with gluten issues, because there are issues like celiac and such, and we need to be mindful of that. But and then I'll put a homemade whipped cream on top of it and serve it with fruit. And we splurge in other ways as well. I love dark chocolate, so I have that once in a while. But we find the healthier versions if at all possible. Okay, so to move on to what we'll be addressing, please feel free, for those of you who may be just joining, to, if you have questions or anything you'd like to bring up that you'd like to work on and kind of throw up on the clipboard, so to speak, health issues, life issues, it doesn't matter if it's career, finance, health, if your car won't start, things like that. I say that I'm I'm in all seriousness, because I've literally worked on, the car, the motorcycle, traffic jams and red lights, and intersections where there were a lot of accidents. And then I've noticed that those accidents were occurring, there were fewer and fewer after a while. So anything you'd like to bring up that you'd like to work on, pop it in the chat. Feel free to ask away if you have questions throughout, and we'll keep an eye on that as much as I can. Um, one thing I liked, I think I mentioned, I may not have, please have a glass of water at the beginning, if at all possible. If you need to pause the recording, if you're watching the recording later, and run and get it, go ahead. Now's a good time. And you probably have a few seconds, if you're live on the call, to run and grab a glass of water if you like. The reason I recommend that is because when we're hydrated at the cellular level, we hold the formulas longer and better. And I think I did bring that up, so I apologize for repeating. So everybody go ahead and take a sip of water, and then start to take a couple of deep breaths, and we'll begin. When you're breathing, remember to breathe in and out. You don't have to hold your breath or pause. Breathe as far down as you can, way down into the belly if possible. That kind of gets everything moving and waking up. And we want to bring in not only hydration by having some water, but also, that movement, the circulation, breathing increases. Breathing is in the air or metal element, but it can also get fire going and whatnot. Um, and so, thank you. I see something popping up on the chat. So, a few things that I'm seeing that people are bringing up today or throughout the week. I see epilepsy, divorce. So, that would be relationship issues. And remember, relationships are also about relationship to self, because how we do one thing is absolutely how we do everything. And it can affect not only our relationships and maybe going through bouts of upset, stress, anxiety, depression, sadness, but also that can begin to deteriorate our health if we're not careful to keep those emotions moving. We have to remember emotions come up because they want to be released. They want to be acknowledged and seen. You can thank them because they can show you what you need to know or something you need to work on or address. And then we let them go. It's as simple as feeling where you feel that emotion in the body, where you feel it the strongest. Open a window. Open a window right over that area. It's usually the upper abdomen, the heart space, right? Or between the heart brain and gut brain. And open a window and watch it just bubble out or fly out like balloons or butterflies or tennis balls bouncing out. Eyes have come up, depression and anxiety, stress has come up this week, autoimmune issues, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, Epstein-Barr virus, things like that. Um, and knees, arthritis, skin, stress, headaches, mind chatter, trying to quiet mind chatter, that's come up for people. Stomach, digestive issues, hormonal issues. So we're just going to pop all of those up on the clipboard and see where this takes us. And again, while these may seem totally unrelated, we have to remember that they are all related. And maybe when we get rid of them, we'll feel elated, right? Um, it's because, the old song, the ankle bone is connected to the foot bone, connected to the toe bone, etc. And it's all connected, both in the body and the mind and the spirit. Not that the spirit needs fixing or healing, because the spirit is already perfect and in its perfect state. But we are allowed to tap in and use that as a resource for our own healing of body and mind. And what's going on? Maybe the spirit has a job or something to teach us in this lifetime. And so that's showing up in the body mind complex as what we consider an issue or a problem. And I don't always look at it as a problem, simply because often what's showing up is what we need to address, we need to learn something from, and it's trying to get our attention. Aches and pains and health issues are there asking, begging for our attention to something. Maybe it's telling us to slow down. Maybe it's telling us not to consume cheese or dairy products. If we get skin issues a lot, if you see children with earaches or needing, the doctor saying they need ear tubes, things like that, that's often a sign of a dairy intolerance at the very least. By the age of 3 or 4, the body loses the enzymes to be able to digest dairy products. If it's mother's milk, it can go a bit longer because there are enzymes present. And that's an on-demand type thing when the baby is nursing from the mother directly, then the baby is directly telling the mother's body what to produce, to put it simply. um, so we want to learn to listen to our body so that we can feel better. By the way, my free ebook on my that's offered on my YouTube channel, there's a link to it, is called Feel Fantastic Faster. But we want to learn and we want to work on that today a little bit, how to feel better in our body by listening to our body. So how do we do that? Where do we even begin? First, we want to try and remember to be present. And what does being fully present even mean? What does that look like? How does that feel? So, in a conversation with someone, it means giving them your full attention, not having diverted attention by listening to the TV on the side or typing up an email to someone else or whatever it is that serves as a distraction when we're having a conversation. These days, quite often it's the phone or other devices. Yeah, I'm paying attention. Okay, gotcha. But they're there texting someone else and they're not being fully present. In my home, I have a rule. I've always had a rule that when we come to the table for family dinner and we eat dinner together as a family, no devices were allowed. Now, back in the day that I was raising my daughter, we there were pagers and then cell phones came along, but they were the little bitty flip phones and whatnot. So we didn't have texting and things like that. But we didn't get up to answer the telephone when it rang. And back then, the telephone was hanging on the wall because it was a home phone. Today's translation, and as my daughter grew older, and now I have a granddaughter and grandson, my rule is no phones at the table. I don't care if you're looking something up. If we're eating, especially, and conversing as a family during the meal, I'd like our focus to be with each other, being present. A lot of times with family gatherings, we're hanging out at the table and talking after the meal is finished. And if someone wants to look something up that we're talking about, I've started to let that slip in. But we have to be mindful of where that fine line is because then it's easy to get distracted and not be as present with ourselves and with others. But if we start practicing those mindful ways of being present, then we can better learn and tap into more quickly how to be present for ourselves with our bodies and with our own minds. So I invite you to be more present with yourself. Listen to what your body is telling you. Where do you feel an itch or an ache or soreness or maybe a pain? Maybe you're hearing something. Maybe you are thinking too much. If you become present with those thoughts, not in allowing them to, not in getting on the hamster wheel with them, but becoming present and allowing them the space, saying, okay, I see you, I hear you, I know you're there. I'm going to set you aside, whatever thought that is, and I'll come back to you. I'm going to remember you. I'll come back to you when I'm ready to give you my full attention. But right now, my focus is on myself. And that's how we can begin listening to our bodies. Where in your body do you feel any tension or stress or discomfort? If pain is there, you'll know where it is. But what if it's just this little niggling thing that you're not fully aware of all the time? But when you stop, maybe you start to feel, or when you get tired, you start to feel. You can feel those and be more present with them before you get tired so that you have the energy and the capacity to be present with it. Um, Ask your body where you feel that. Ask what it's trying to tell you and wait for an answer. Yes, at first the mind chatter is going to come in and we'll drift off, but try to bring your focus back and ask, what am I to know from this? What am I to learn from this experience? Because often there's a message there. Excuse me. Actually, I keep on my desk because I work with this so much, and you can tell because it's nice and tattered. And if I open it, pages will literally fall out because it's getting pretty old. It's the old copy. The new version or new edition has changed the cover. But Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Body, is fantabulous. I love it that much. Not that fantabulous is a word, but I like it. And basically, what it does is it will list what is, this chunk of pages kind of fell out. It'll list what's going on, what you need to know about it. Like if it's back problems, it represents the support of life. And it can go into the differences between lower, middle, and upper back. And then it gives you a mantra to be able to repeat to yourself or focus on or use in your meditation. And that can help as well. Little things like that are sometimes the juicy tidbits, right? So why not use them? But ask your own body, what are you trying to tell me? So if it's a digestive issue, our first thought is often, oh, maybe it's trying to tell me I'm eating too much or I'm eating the wrong foods. But if you continue asking, you may go deeper and even deeper. And you might get to a realization that you never would have dreamed of before. And oftentimes, just having that realization will allow it to go away. All it was trying to do was bring information to you. If we don't listen and we keep ignoring it, or we keep sweeping it under the rug, or we keep saying, it's not that bad, I'll deal with it later, what resists will persist, and it can become a bigger issue. I can attest to that because I went through 7 to 8 years of being bedridden off and on, having several days in the clinic where I was having huge IVs. They'd have to send the triage nurse in to open the clinic early and stay late for me because my IV took that long. I was giving myself shots at home, etc. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I could hardly feed myself. And my daughter was raising me instead of me raising her. And I had a long list of autoimmune illnesses from MS to chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, Epstein-Barr virus. They suspected many, many others as well. Um, there's no trace of that in my body anymore. No one can find a trace of it. And I'm not the only one. I've helped many people do the same thing. But what happened was, I believe, yes, I was exposed to biological and chemical warfare in the Middle East after the Gulf War that, set that stuff in motion. But I don't think it all could have taken hold if I wasn't sweeping things under the rug. Because we have to remember that the body, every organ, endocrine, body part, and down to the cellular level, all the tissue, all the fascia, which is the connective tissue that if you took the skeleton and everything out, the body would still have its form because of the fascia or the connective tissue. All of that stores memory and it stores trauma. And if we're not willing to look at that and look at the emotional side of things, and we keep sweeping that under the rug, it's going to show up in the body. And if we don't listen to those little niggling beginnings of the body messages, then it can turn into something really big, like what I went through and experienced. And I'm not the only one. Many people across the world now are having more and more of experiences like that or similar, or other major health issues. So when we look at digestion, we might keep going in and digging deeper, and we might recognize that, if I listen to what my body's telling me, we might find that it's telling us there's something we don't want to digest in life. We don't want to look at something. We don't want to face something. We don't want to admit to ourselves that what we see is really happening. It could be in a relationship. It could be with our career. Maybe we're dissatisfied with what we're doing. Even when we're retired, it might be we're dissatisfied with what we are or are not accomplishing. It could be what's going on in the greater world around us these days because there's so much. And that's hard to take in. It's hard to fully digest. Stomach and spleen, pancreas are part of the earth element in the five elements if we're looking into Chinese medicine. And for those who aren't familiar with my work, I'm a transformational coach, and I work with a combination of Eastern and Western medicine that's consciousness based. A little taste of that is what we're digging into right now with digesting and how we're digesting life. In the earth element, we look at things like the conscious and subconscious mind, or the thinking mind, the intuitive process, things like that. And sometimes we're not recognizing that what we see in our environment we don't like, and it might show up as digestive issues. So we're going to move into that was just kind of one little why or how things can happen and how they can be related with the body mind complex. But we're going to dive in deeper with other issues. So I do want to address it feels like eyes are coming up first. And I'm seeing that I know that eyes were on the clipboard. Someone had requested to work on that earlier in the week that can't be present today. But I also see that we're looking at epilepsy as an issue. And we have to remember that eyes are often involved in seizures and epilepsy and things like that. Uh, Without getting too deep into the woods of how the nerves are connected and how the responses happen, et cetera, to create something like that. One thing that we need to be aware of is the eyes are on a frequency of about 50 to 60 hertz, that cycle. When the frequencies go outside of that, say with flashing lights, too much screen time, the electronic games, or I guess these days they're on computers and iPads and phones. I guess they call it gaming. I'm giving my age away, y'all, because I'm not really recalling all of that at the moment. Um, it can produce epileptic seizures. And so we want to be very aware of that. We want to be very aware if our brain is getting switched. That can happen from flashing lights. Back in the day, it used to be the disco balls, but anything flashing lights, it could be some people leave the light on for their cell phone and it flashes really bright and really fast to tell them, hey, you have a call or a message. But if it's facing out to the rest of the world, it's disturbing our eye frequency, our sight frequency. And it can cause switching in the brain, which can create many, many different things, but it can lead to epileptic seizures as well. There was something else I wanted to say with that. That'll come up. Um, so, one one thing I would encourage is recognizing when things like when you see an ambulance or a police car, things like that. The sirens and the lights, or the school buses these days have really bright, flickering, flashing lights. It's that flickering type thing that can switch us, and that can cause it as well. There are some techniques to help with that, and I'm happy to share. If you have questions, please contact me privately, and we'll go a little bit deeper into that. So, what's coming up first? Becoming present. We're going to get into a little bit of session work here. So, go ahead and take another couple deep breaths in and out. What I'm seeing is balancing water and wood with fire. So we're going into the 5 elements. What's coming up is the triple heater that having to do with fascia, the connective tissue. So that can bring up elements of pain, stiffness, achiness. It can also hold on to patterns that maybe aren't so healthy. And I don't want to get too deep into the weeds with that. So we're just going to highlight that for the moment. And then we're going to link into the brain. I'm looking at like the cingulate gyrus having to do with the emotional reaction to pain. And then looking at the amygdala as well. The amygdala is kind of being highlighted here. The amygdala is that fight or flight response. It can bring, it's the alertness as and docility kind of functioning. It's the fight or flight. It can bring up warning signals, like, oh, the tiger's coming. And when you have that major fear, the stomach kind of goes, oh, that kind of thing. We're also looking at the brainstem. The brainstem has many, many different functionings, but it has also to do with, just to highlight some of them, like blood pressure, sleep issues, breathing, the heart rate, digestion is in there, the temperature. Hypothalamus is also coming up with metabolism and body temperature, blood pressure. Let's see, where else are we going? We're going to go to the corpus callosum as well. That's the communication between right and left hemisphere in the brain. And it feels like all of these things want to be pulled together to have a general brain balancing to help kind of calm down and center, bring down anxiety, stress. This can also help with even depression, pain. I've seen these areas of the brain highlight with autoimmune type issues. I see headaches coming up for some. Okay, we're going to do a general brain balancing, and then we're tying that in within we looked at the 5 elements, right? Doing a 5-element balancing, but especially water and wood balancing to fire, to kind of, some are too high, some are too low, and when there's that imbalance, we want to bring them to the center so that the energy can just flow through all 5 elements, because that can affect us on every level within the body-mind complex. So we're going to highlight that, and then we're going to link to the heart-brain for individuation. That's a deeper processing. And then alongside of that, we're going to link into the brainstem as it has to do with, I think we already kind of brought some of that in a little bit, but the sense of balance, reflexes, and then we're also looking at other parts of the brainstem with head movements and things like that. Some of that can show up in Parkinson's, but even just how we carry ourselves and how we present ourselves. Reflexes, neuropsychiatric disorders. We're also going to tie in. So I'm going to go back to the stomach and digestion and link that to movement in the joints, how we process or don't process. Sometimes we get too much calcification in the joints that can cause that kind of pain and things like that. And then we're going to go ahead and take a deep breath, and we're going to tap this in. The links are pretty strong there. Again, we're linking to the heart brain for that individuation, that deeper knowing. the deeper synthesizing, because the heart is the harmonizer and the synthesizer. It brings everything together. It unites us, right? Think about a heart to heart conversation, how much that brings us together in a relationship. And so this is also showing up for relationship issues, including relationship to self. Because if we don't have a clear, comfortable relationship to ourselves, our higher self, then how can we have a clearly communicating, comfortable relationship with others? Okay, I think that's all, and we're going to tap that in. Just take some deep breaths in and out. If you aren't familiar with the tapping process that I use, pretend there's a center part, and you want to make sure you're getting both sides here, not just one side or in the center, but both sides as you tap, as you take some deep breaths in and out. And you can move down to tapping over the heart. Anywhere on the chest is fine. And then I want to add one more. We're going to tap over the upper abdomen, the belly. And that's getting the three brains, the head brain, the heart brain, and the gut brain. If you want more information on that, the Heart Math Institute has some really good information. They've done some really good studies and they have a good way of presenting it. So go explore. It's a really good one. Again, that's the Heart Math Institute. Let's see. Something else that's coming up is grounding ourselves, earthing ourselves. Sometimes we get stressed or anxious or worried, and we start to overthink, and we get too much in the head. But then sometimes we also get very flighty, right? And I'm guilty of this, y'all. I will start talking about one thing and I'll get into storytelling and it'll take me somewhere else and somewhere else and somewhere else. And I'll come around again eventually, but I have to be real mindful to ground myself and come back around instead of getting flighty with all those thoughts that keep coming up because they're all related somehow. Because again, how we do one thing is how we do everything. So I'm being reminded to remind you, if you're not familiar with earthing or grounding, it's something you might want to look into. It's very powerful. I talk about it a little bit in my free ebook. But basically, get outside and go barefoot in the grass. That's the best way to earth. People ask me, what about walking on the beach and in the ocean? Those are good, but or in the sand, the dirt, those are good. They're not quite as powerful as going barefoot in the grass. Another way, if you don't have access to it, if you're maybe living in a major city and don't live close enough to a park that you can go do that, or if it's wintertime or often cold or just conditions aren't right, another way you can do that, now you have to set your intention, but take a long hot shower and let the water run on about right here, the back of your neck where the neck meets the body meets the neck, right there at the top of the back or the top of the shoulder area, if you will, right where it meets the neck, and focus as the shower water is coming down in your mind or in your mind's eye, right? Exercise the pituitary gland there. A lot of people, by the way, think the pineal is the third eye. It's not. The pituitary is what really represents the third eye. People talk about awakening or clearing their pineal gland and opening the third eye. Are they related? Yes, because we have the access to the pituitary gland and then the pineal gland. They're very close, right? All of the endocrines are very closely related. So therefore the chakras, and the chakras are related with the endocrine system very closely. And so, yes, it's all related. However, a lot of people talk about opening up their pineal gland to open up their pituitary, to open up their third eye. And I look at that more as the third eye being the pituitary. The pineal gland is access to the divine. And the third eye, the pituitary, is how we see the world, which is also very closely related to the stomach, then, because how we digest what we're seeing can affect us, or how we're not able to digest can affect us. So that's something to keep in mind. I love to go deeper on some of that. I want to be mindful of the time as well. I try to keep our calls to under an hour so that those who are joining us live on a lunch break can get back to work. Um, so the focus with the shower, to get back to that, having the shower, the water run again about right here, on the back of the neck. Have the focus of that water going down throughout like internally inside your body, throughout the entire spine, all the way to the tip of the coccyx or the tailbone. The tip of the tailbone is not what we think it is. We think we recognize where our tailbone is. That's the top of it. The tailbone actually it curves down under, kind of like a scoop, and comes to a very sharp point, and it goes much further down than what we recognize. You don't really have to recognize that, but try to or you don't have to be as aware if you're not as familiar with anatomy and physiology, but try to bring your focus with the shower water going down the spine and flushing out the free radicals. And you'll see the water kind of in your mind's eye going down the spine, coming back up and flushing it out. Or you might see it flushing it out directly at the bottom of the spine. And then you're flushing out the free radicals while you are also taking in the antioxidants. Because if you're earthing yourself in Mother Nature with Mother Earth and feet in the grass, bare feet in the grass, by the way, I suggest doing that if you can 30 minutes a day, if not 20 minutes or any bit you get, as often as you can. If you can, lay down with as much of your body exposed in the grass. You will find a lot of healing, especially from things like pain and weakness. Energy levels can increase greatly that way. I like to, when I can, when the weather permits and when I have time, I like to greet the morning sunrise, watch it as it's rising. And yes, I'm one of those that stares at the sun directly. And I like to practice qigong barefoot in the grass while I'm doing that. I'm human. I don't always get to do that, but it's one of my favorite ways to start my day. It gives me more energy. I'm earthing myself. I'm getting rid of a lot of the stress and anxiety while the earth is creating that exchange with the ions, the free radicals, the antioxidants, etc., and kind of cleaning me out so that I can feel fresh and have a great start to my day. So that's one little tip with the earthing. Um, what came up earlier too in the formula was the water element and the wood element, the fire element. So the water rules, kidneys, bladder, etc. The kidneys rule the knees. So if there are issues with the knees, what we want to think about, water is maximum contraction. Think of, somebody here present today is from Alaska. So you know what maximum contraction looks like when the water freezes. All the rivers and the lakes, etc., freeze up, and everything turns to ice. So that's maximum contraction. But what does that mean in the mind? What does that mean with our emotions, etc.? It has to do with willpower, with the will to live. It has to do with fear and existential fear. And if we're having knee problems, what are we fearing? What are we constantly concerned about? When we're stuck in fear, we can't really move forward. Our knees are a flexible part of moving forward in life, right? So we need to start thinking, And just take time when you can to think about those things. You might have some ahas. When you get to the ahas, don't stop. Keep asking yourself, what else am I afraid of? What else might I have fear about? Because you'll go deeper and deeper and get to some really big ahas. Sometimes that's all it takes. Um, Wood element, deciding, planning. It's about liver, gallbladder, energy, things like that. And then we linked to the fire element to balance. Of course, fire, we think of heart and things like that, which is also having to do with heart protection. We look at pericardium and the triple heater, which has to do with the fascia. Um, just some of those things to keep in mind, to start asking yourself as you are trying to learn to listen to your body, becoming more aware, to go back to what we started with as the topic today. Listening to our body, becoming more aware, being more present with yourself, so that hopefully you can have better access to the higher self. The higher self is that direct divine connection. And when we're able to tap into that, and I do have some tools and techniques for that that are quite simple. Simple, yes, easy, takes a little bit of practice. But with practice and over time, you'll get there and you'll be able to develop your own intuition and know what your higher self is trying to communicate to you so that you can have that better relationship with yourself as well as with others. And remember, we're not alone in this world. We do have a divine connection. I don't know what your beliefs are, but I invite you to explore that. And there's something there. You don't have to label it one thing or another. I don't think Source or Creator cares if we call it Source or God or Blade of Grass. Those are all labels. It's the meaning to us inside that we place on that label that is most important. And please remember that there's a lot going on out there. A lot of people are posting videos about um, words and they're not what we think. That's true. But we have to remember we have to be sovereign. We have to take charge of our own health, our own mind, our own lives. And the way we do that is we choose. We get to decide. Therefore, we even get to decide what a label means to us. We all speak different languages in different parts of the world, so labels can be a little bit different there as well. So, what do your words mean to you? How are you using them? And when we explore that, we can go deeper as well into what's going on in the body. So, we want to bring more balance. Remember not to eat too many Doritos and soda because we don't want that coupon for the coffin any earlier than we need it. Um, and just remember to be present with yourself, listen to your body, tune in, and you'll learn what it's telling you so that you can begin to feel better. And again, if you want more tips on how to feel fantastic faster, go to my YouTube channel, go down in the description. You'll see under the description of the title of the video, it'll say ... more. It'll have an ellipse. Click on more. It'll drop down with more in the description, and you'll be able to scroll down and find where to click on the link to get that. If you need to reach me, you can reach me at info@wisewomanevolving.com. Again, that's info@wisewomanevolving.com. I am happy to share. I'm happy to help and be of support in any way I can. My goal is to serve precious humanity so that humanity as a whole and each of us as individuals can begin to heal from the inside out, because it is an inside job. And it is something that we are born, we're made with an innate intelligence that already knows how to heal from within. I don't do anything for anybody to help them get well. I serve as a guide and a loudspeaker, but that's about it. you show up for yourself and do the work. So with that, I know we're getting to the hour mark. I'd like to thank you all for showing up today. If you want to stay on live, if you have any questions, feel free to stay on after I stop the recording. And if you need to go, I understand. If you're watching the recording later on at any point, remember, as long as you follow this from start to finish without interruption and follow along and show up for yourself, that you'll have benefit. So thank you again for joining me. I'm CiCi with Wise Woman Evolving. Welcome, and until next time, I love you all and be well.